think it's very important as well. Like learn about other cultures and things through literature and tell stories and yeah. I think
Well, it's important to me as a person. I did A-level English. I've always enjoyed reading. I think it depends on the person whether it's important. But to me, yeah, it's very important. I think it's good for education and development for children, but also people of any age to develop their vocabulary. I can't say that word properly. And I just do think it's a great way of storytelling, creating these fictional worlds that people, can escape to.
Yes, for various reasons. It's a sort of archive of history, um, although literature can be fictional. Fictional works made at a certain time reflect the time they're from, therefore they can be looked at as sort of historical documents, as well as just being enjoyable and entertaining, and for inspiring future writers.
I would say yes. I'd say it's very important because I think a lot of topics are covered through literature, and like it's looking back, like all history's got to be recorded through literature, and there's lots of I think it's very important as well. Like learn about other cultures and things through literature and tell stories and I think it is. Yeah.
I think that language is more important than literature. I feel like in the high school, like in secondary school, when you do English lit, it's always based on like, it's based on like white supremacist or like white writers, and it's based off like an old man's point of view, an old white rich man's point of view, and it's not really like open-minded. It's always very like closed. It's like a small box. You get me? Yeah. I don't really like it, but like in the sense of it being not as important as language, I feel like if you're into English literature or into reading and stuff, go for it. But like literature for like the whole world, I don't think it's important.
As a whole, I'd say perhaps it's not as perhaps publicised or out in the open as it possibly was in the past. For example, because media has developed, it's changed. It's a lot more kind of fast media. For example, TikTok and social media, people want instant kind of entertainment. So therefore, literature won't be something that people seek out as much.
I'm not the biggest reader or the best writer, but the stuff I do enjoy, I really enjoy, and it's very important for the ongoing development of general human culture, so I'm for it generally.
Personally, I struggle to read actually, as it so happens. Yeah, but I think I'm dyslexic, but I've never been sort of diagnosed or anything. I do like literature. I enjoy reading. I just struggle. That's the thing. But no, I think literature is important.
I think literature can have like a big impact on the way you're being brought up. Like I guess if you read like horror books, Stephen King novels, if you read that like growing up, now you don't get scared as much because you've seen like all of these things, you've read it. So it's like a pain tolerance, but like it's a pain tolerance for scary things.
Depends the adaptation really. I suppose some can be good, some can be bad. Depends on obviously how they adapt it. I think Hollywood have a bit of a trope for literally saying, oh, this book's popular, let's make a movie of it, we'll make money. So therefore I think it depends on where people are coming from with it. So for example, if there's a passion project behind it, if they work closely with the author and make sure that it is as close to the book as possible. For example, obviously the most kind of famous one, Harry Potter, all those kind of ones, they're quite similar to the book. There are things that stray, whereas other ones have completely diverted, which perhaps aren't as successful. And just because it works as a book doesn't mean it's going to work as a film.
I think it's open game. I think if the original creator is happy to let that go and let someone deal with it, and that's on them. If they want to be involved, they don't. I think sometimes they fail, sometimes they're good. I think it's depending on who's got a hold of it, what they do with it, and I think it's fair game of adaptation. I think you can do what you want, and sometimes it comes out, sometimes it doesn't.
Well, adaptations of literature. I think adaptations of literature, because you've got like children's books and things, and I think literature's a really good learning tool. I think throughout life, you know. And I think, you know, kids can have like pop-up books which don't have much writing, lots of like kind of pop-up and images and things, and then you get, you know, as you get older there's less pictures and stuff, but you're still learning, and it's still, you know, you become more educated through literature. I think it's very important.
Let's be honest, Harry Potter, I feel like so much gets lost in translation in the film. Like the book is so much more like, there's so much more detail in it. And like I get there's details in the movie too, but you lose a big part of it.
I wouldn't say any book's like really kind of deep rooted in me, but the one book that really stands out to me is a really cliche one. But I studied it in my second year of A-level English, and it was The Great Gatsby, which obviously is a very famous book. Some people hate it, some people love it, some people are like, it's the worst ever. But for me, because we study it so closely, and because we looked at so many of the themes, we looked at so much of the character development and stuff like that, it was very much kind of ingrained in my teenage years, and it was very important to our class as well. And I suppose relating back to the previous question as well, is we also like the adaptation of it, of the book as well. So that's the only book that's like not affected me, but has had like a close personal kind of link to who I am and kind of my development as a teenager. Obviously Harry Potter series as well, I grew up with it.
Let me think. Been a couple. Probably the first book I read like by myself, cover to cover, rather than it being read to me or, you know, like as I was growing up. So it would have been Danny Champion of the World, which is a Roald Dahl book. One of the slightly longer ones. It was the first book that I read myself. So I think for that reason, it's got a sort of special place because it was sort of where I began.
How I teach it, I think you have to really get them interested. I think students, they're very much like I said, they get distracted very easily, they're all about technology, so therefore you need to make it fun, you need to make it interactive. So whether that be kind of through role play, whether that be through kind of characterization, and all those kind of things. Like when I said about Great Gatsby and everything, what made it so key to us was the way that the teacher delivered it to us. She was passionate about it, she made sure that we were so kind of involved, and it was very much in depth about the characterization, about what we kind of looking at. And so I suppose it'd just be lots of fun workshops, activities, not just sat there reading a book in class, although that is important, but perhaps more read it when you have your own time, when we're in class, let's actually do fun interactive things that allows us to develop.
I think it's not being precious about certain forms of literature and not excluding others just because they're deemed as not important or not good enough. I think a lot of students maybe enjoy reading, but maybe don't enjoy reading the stuff that is deemed as important or good. So, you know, of course they're important, the classics and stuff like that are important, but I think don't exclude more modern, sort of less fondly looked upon stuff. Include that, because that will, you know, get their attention a lot easier. So that a lot of literature teachers will probably exclude a lot of YA titles, stuff like that. But I think if you include those, you've got a better chance of getting through to people and making them interested.
I would, coming from like an art point of view, I would say the students should find books and find literature that they're interested in. Definitely, because if you're interested in a topic, it's definitely much easier to learn about, let's say, like literature, if you're learning about it through topics you enjoy. You know.
The writers, I would make it broad. I would have like all races, I would have all equality of genders and stuff. I would like make it really broad, like open-minded, like books and stuff, just for them to read. And to teach it, I'm more of a like do-it-yourself learner. I'm not like, here, do this, I won't do it right, like I'm out of the box. So I try to teach them in a way that's not, what's it called, not like a straight line, kind of wavy.
Yes and no. Like I said before, it has in terms of perhaps for the young generation, they're not reading as much because they do have all this fast media. And same with movies. If people, for example, have a 700-page book, but there's a 2-hour film of it, they're probably going to watch the 2-hour film. Which I do think is sad, because I think the books and everything can provide quite a big kind of bigger impact than movies can. Yeah, I do think it's lost its way. I do think that perhaps with I think it goes with in waves. So I think that there's a bit more of a rise of it now because I think it's almost a little bit edgy to read. You go to a bookshop, you find books and everything like that. And it's like popular culture is like, okay, we have all this fast stuff, but look how edgy I am with my hardback book. And I do think it will go in ebbs and flows like everything does.
I don't think so. I think it's just it's got a lot of competition now. Literature was until maybe 100 years ago when cinema became the thing, or even the only real competitor it's ever had would be theatre, and literature and theatre have always been very connected and very closely connected, and most writers write plays and books and stuff like that. But I think it's got more competition now with other forms of media and arguably easier to consume media. You can just watch a film or watch a video. You don't have to sit down and read a book. But there are still plenty of people reading, and there's probably more books being written now than there's ever been at any point in history. So that's got to be a sign that stuff is still being written and stuff is still being read, even if it's not as prestigious. It's still being produced.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, I mean, you could argue that like literature's on your phone and stuff like that, but most people just use their phones for games and social media and things. And people have different hobbies nowadays through technology. So I say technology is a big thing that sort of stops people from reading things. I mean, I know you can read on Kindles and you can read online, but I just think there's less interest nowadays for like especially the youth to read.
Yes. Okay, hear me out. Back in like 2015, when all these YouTubers they started releasing books, I feel like it just got lost. Like it's not really the literature that you used to see. It's not like in-depth, detailed stories. It's more like snappy stories. Like this is what happened, blah blah blah. There's no detail in it anymore. There's detail, but not as much as there would be.